Hello, my name is Toni Cannelli. I'm a drummer stroke drum teacher from England. What I'd like to do today is just talk about 8 steps or principles that have been really useful to me in developing my own career. I'm a professional drummer who also teaches the drums. If you look on my website, you'll see that a lot of my students have gone on to become very successful drummers. Now, the whole thing today is not just about drumming. It doesn't matter what you do. I think you might get something out of what I'm talking about, hopefully. I'm not a success guru. I'm not a trillionaire or anything like that. I'm just an ordinary guy who just does what he wants to do with his life, and I consider myself successful or lucky. Now, it might be an idea if you get yourself a pen and a paper, and if anything I say sort of stands out or helps you, please write it down. So, can we go to the first step? Right, the first step is passion. Passion means that you have enthusiasm for what you do. Passion means that you'll do it even if you don't get paid. It's just something, it's all consuming, it's something that you love. So in my case, it's playing the drums. Whatever it is in your life, just jot it down. Jot down what you feel passionate about. That's the first step. Right, let's go to the second step. Hard work. There's no such reality as something for nothing. And success only crowns those willing to try. So once you know what you're passionate about, it's no big deal putting the time in to get good. And to get good at anything, you just have to do a lot of repetitions. You've got to be willing to enjoy those repetitions. It doesn't matter what it is that you do, drumming, sports, I don't know, you name it. It's all about, if you look at anyone who's successful, they work hard at what they do. So being willing to work, that's the second principle. Right, let's go to the third. This principle is all about getting good, practice. Now practice, if you're practicing something and it sounds really, really good, or it seems effortless, stop practicing it because you know how to do that. There's an old saying in music, good practice sounds awful. So if I'm practicing something and it just doesn't sound great, that means I'm developing something I'm not good at. So please don't waste your time just practicing the things that you are good at. Try and work on aspects that need to be worked on. So try to sort of write down your weaknesses and start to practice that so you can become a much better musician if music is your thing, or whatever it is you want to do in your life. Work on your weaknesses. Right, let's go to focus on one thing. Writing down where you think you're going to be in a year's time or in 10 years' time, that's what they call setting goals. And that really, really is important. You've got to remember, a life is just a load of minutes and hours, months put together, and if you're not using that time wisely, then what are you doing? So don't waste time, because time is our only commodity. So if you want to write down, firstly, write down where you think you're going to be in a year's time. If it helps, pause the video now. Okay, so once you've written that out, where are you going to be in 10 years' time? I know if you're 14, you're going to be 24. You need to think about it. You need to write down exactly where you're going to be. If you're a musician, if you write down, I want to be doing a world tour by the time I'm 24, write it down. And then things start to become a lot clearer, and you're not just going through your life guessing. And once these goals are written, put them on a piece of paper where you can see it and look at it every day. So written goals, a massive principle there. Right, let's go on to the next. Pushing yourself, that's the next principle. You have to overcome shyness and all that kind of business. And you need to sort of stand up and sort of work on your product. Your product is you. Now, Einstein said something really amazing. He said, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. So you might want to write this one down. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So if you're not happy with the way your life is going at the moment, instead of just doing the same thing over and over and over, because your life won't change, You need to change. So sit down and think about how you can change as a person to get to where you want to go to. Don't get stuck in a mental rut, okay? So that's an important principle, that one that a lot of people don't realise, and we're all guilty of it. We tend to live our life in a habit form, you know, like, oh, I get up, I go to work, I come home, have my dinner, then I sit down and watch the telly, then I go to bed, and you repeat that 365 times, and that's a whole year gone. So start to think for yourself. Start to think about what it is that you want to do. Yeah. Right. If you're going into business, the person that pays your wages is the customer. Right. So pleasing the customer is the golden rule of business. So I'm a drummer, so when I play for a band, most people pay money to see the singer. So I'm there as a drummer to make the singer sound good. So the singer is kind of my boss. And then obviously the audience are my boss as well, because they pay the money to come and see the singer. So when you go into business, you've got to start thinking about pleasing the customer. Who is the customer? Think about it. And then start to think, right, I need to do something that's going to help my customer. So that's another massive principle. Ideas, thinking outside the box. We've all got creative minds. But unfortunately, sometimes when we're at school is all about desks in a straight line, sit down, you're told to be quiet, open up the book at page 68 like everybody else, and the bell goes. It's all about conformity. Now, you're not, you know, outside of school, learn to think for yourself. Learn to have a creative mind. Learn to sort of think, right, okay, let's use this expression, what if? What if I do this? What if I do that? Look, let's give you a bit of an exercise now to get the creative part of your brain going. City centres these days are not that great. If I go into a city centre, there's a lot of shops boarded up. There's lots of people begging on the streets. It's not a pretty place. Reason being is that people buy everything on the internet now. So the city centre's kind of like dying a bit. So use your creative mind now. See if you can write down 3 ways for the city centre to up their game and get people to come back and shop in the city centre and not use the internet. So if it helps, stop the file now and write 3 things down. Last principle, persistence. Persistence means you keep going until you get there. There's no point setting yourself targets and thinking you want to do something, and then the first problem you cave in and stop. You have to keep going, keep going. So persistence for me is all about, if you sort of like think, learning from your mistakes is like a big one. You make a mistake, it's not the end of the world, you find out what went wrong, you put it right, move forwards. Right, so persistence, I've needed it in my career, is that sometimes things are not working, but you've got a game plan, you have to keep going until you achieve your target. All right, so hopefully out of those principles I've been talking about today, you got something from it. Please, if you like what I said or you want to study the drums, go on my website, www.tonicannelli.com. Thank you.